Bonjour, Anin. I am Heid E. Erdrich, reading to you from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'll be reading to you from my new book, Little Big Bully, from Penguin Books, and it'll be out in October, if it's not out already by the time you see this. Little Big Bully is a book that has at its heart themes of narcissism and how folks survive narcissism, how we get involved with narcissistic people and figures to begin with, and what part of the mechanism of narcissism grows within us. Where is that little big bully? I'm going to read some of the poems from the first section of the book and a few from the end. Thank you for listening, miigwech. How loves, how I love you. How we hang on words, how eaten with need, how we need to eat, how weevils sift the wheat, how cold it is, how thick with hoarfrost, ice slick, sleet freeze, how wintry the mix, how full of angst, how gut sick, how blue-lipped, how we drink a health, how we care. How easy over as eggs, how it all slides, how absurd, how yet tender we all, how wrapped in a thick coat, how battered, how slender the flesh, how we wrap ourselves, how many selves we all, how I miss you many, how I see you, how your eyes warm mine, how tiny am I, how enormous my need, how you open an old-fashioned satchel, how deep it yawns, how bleak this need, how like winter, how it yet catches the light, how brilliant the sundogs, perihelion, moondogs, parcelian, phenomenon, optic, how fetching your spectacles, how my thumbs might fit alongside the slope of your nose, how my own glasses slide down my thin bridge, how ridiculous the theory of the bridge, how inane the bibble babble, how we grew to be friends, how we grew thumbs, how opposable we all, how we grew sparks, how we blew up a fire, how angry, how incensed, how we resist, how we beat up drops, how water will not run, how we distract, how loud the dog snores, how loudly, how noisy the snow grows, how many degrees below, how we fret, how again, how we all came here, how did we come, how loves, how did we come to this? Variations true. Subtle color variations of lilac keep coming back to me. Late 1970s, I asked my adult cousins in Germany, "What did you do in the war?" "We were young," they said. "We didn't know." "All was normal," they said. "Normal auf Deutsch." "We took our bikes," they said, "out of the Stadt, the city." They went to gather flowers. Some seasonal fest they biked to dance, to eat, to sing. I imagine them in wide skirts, with aprons maybe, on curvy bikes with wire baskets filled with lilac blossoms, overflowing and abundant and all the young things. I imagine them pedaling back on a date that happens later, but time collapses in these instances, and I see them breaking heavily when they find the city ruined. Then they run to the river that actually happened, survive waves of flame, too late for my father's grandparents, already dead in the rubble. Buried in debris, the city later piled into an enormous hill that grew over green and inviting along the same paths my cousins biked, and recalled when I asked, "What did you do?" "Normal," they said. I never understood, and step kept lilacs in my head. So many pinks and faded inky purples that turn blue in age, so many stages of one bloom that might not grow there, but in my mind maybe stood lilac as a substitute for a German word. "Normal," they said. I never knew how many variations of a vision we can spin to make one image that might not even have been true, but now is now, and now I know we do. Not the girl in the Rambler staring out her window every summer, not allowed out. Not the girl whose dad left his pistol under the pillow where we jumped on the bed. Not the girl who wore only undershirts at home on her daddy's lap. Not the girl who clean, dressed, bathed, fed her little sister's dog food if she had to. Not the girl who could not read, who married the odd jobs man. Not the girl who parked with her dad on country roads, then by bars. Not the girl who thrilled at the drop-off kiss of the dad whose kids she babysat. Not the girl who got a car, got a puppy, got a trip when she gave her baby away. Not the girl whose cousin hit her with his rifle until she knelt and did it. Not the girl who never looked at me again, who never talked to me again, who never laughed. Not the girl who swore me not to tell, who told me I would die, who ran off and married. Not the girl, another girl, and then another girl, and then so many, many girls while I was still a girl. Not the girl, but a woman who was not, has not, did not, would not, could not, will not. Here's a little shift. This poem is called Killed Darling, and it was from a conversation with my students about what do you do with your killed darlings after you give up your initial ideas when you're writing. Raw fur and teeth, a teratoma of a beast, breast kept and unkempt, baptized before born, then sent to be reborn. It gets a better form this time, rabbit blind and bottle fed. Not much hope it will grow, and yet it blinks open, eyes all brown and wild. And this poem is a little bit about back on the narcissist themes and how a lot of what we come to be in the world happens in our adolescence and junior high, and some folks just never get past that. Perpetual communion of junior high. She used a brittle glass of sugar as emblem of her girlhood game, the kind of translucent candies, watermelon, green apple, cinnamon hot. Eyes closed, you heard the crinkle and unwrap as you stood, tongue out. If you were in, it went in. If you were out, you spit out the twist of cellophane or swallowed at the jock priestess of junior high's command. Or maybe you carried your own candies, showed her your tongue stained pink or green or red, stuck it out hard and passed. True, her goons kicked you in the ass, but to this day, any artificial taste takes you back. There was a time you stood apart from all of that. I'm going to read a final poem in the collection called Reprieve. Have a lot of future dreams in the end section of this book. Reprieve. We did not expect the light to break into prism and the earth to cool. A new deluge, knowledge. We waited, praised. So much we did not know, we did not know. We missed the purple of snow shadow, but kept snow. Our skins struggled into iridescence. Everyone grew new. We knew not who walked among us. Locks dropped off. Some felt a loss. Clocks stopped. They shut up days, walked out nights. Some gave up when Jesus did not come. Fine, we thought. We're through with dying. Now this shimmer, everlasting lake of time where every child born is ours, every child mine. Thank you, Poets House. Poets House is a place that somebody in Minneapolis can go to read her poems to the world, and I'm so grateful that I've been able to be involved with a few of the programs at Poets House, which support poets in a way that I rarely get to see, and I really think of it as a poet's home. Miigwech, thank you again.
If you've enjoyed these programs, please consider giving a contribution to Poets House. For more than 30 years, they've kept the door wide open to everyone for the joy of poetry. Recently, they have temporarily had to shut the door and are reeling from the financial implications. Please give, even a small donation if you can. Thank you.